welcome to a review and initial impressions of the brand new Kurosun Ninja Speed Pad. This is coming from a new brand to the scene, Kurosun. This is their first mousepad offering. They seem to have pretty deep roots in the FPS and aim community. See a lot of Valorant pros and just generally aimers endorsing this pad on social media, getting it early and sharing their thoughts. You know, shout out ZK, shout out JC Stanny and Zekin. So this pad seems to be targeting a more enthusiast market rather than something with a wider appeal like a QCK. This has a target audience and its price reflects that. This comes in at $49 US, which is pretty steep. It's not quite in the range of an artisan pad. Here in Canada it costs a little over 100 Canadian dollars, including import fees and shipping fees, which again is still going to be a bit cheaper than something like an artisan pad. So what do you get for that price? You get a pretty premium experience. This pad comes flat packed in a box within a box, including an envelope full of stickers and a thank you note. A very premium experience and a premium vibe coming from the brand. And not all of your money is going into the packaging. So this again is a premium feeling pad. The most apparent premium feature of the pad is the base, which is based. This is a pour-on mouse pad, which is the same base that you're going to get on something like an artisan pad that I have over here. This thing is going to be planted. It's not going anywhere. If I grab the edges and tug, my desk is going to move before the mouse pad does, which is great. As well as that, we've got some pretty nice white stitching around the edges here. This is not quite as quality feeling or as unnoticeable as something like an artisan stitch, but it's pretty decent, and this is definitely not going to bother you. On the front, we've got this design of this ninja in white, as well as a little rubber logo in the corner. I think this design's pretty cool. It's a bit gamery, but a lot of people seem to like it, and it matches my white desk pretty well. Going from corner to corner, this pad comes in at 490mm by 420mm. It's the same size as an Artisan XL. It's not a full 500, but this is a very familiar and comfortable size for most people, and unless you have an incredibly low sense, I don't think you're going to feel that this pad's too small. Look at the thickness of the pad. It comes in at 3mm. So that's not a super thin pad, but it's also not super thick. It is not very plush feeling. This definitely does not feel like an Artisan Soft or X Soft. What I have over here on the right is a mid Artisan Heian. So if we compare the kind of plushness and the force required to depress into these pads, it's pretty similar, or at least most similar to the mid, whilst not being quite as firm. So you're going to need quite a bit of force to get some extra control by sinking your fingers into the pad. That's worth noting, however, because on the mid Artisan pads, you might notice that they don't stick very well. It might just be my desk, but I've heard this echoed by other people that have these pads. This can kind of be remedied by putting some water under the pad and letting it sit, but you're not going to have this problem with the Kurosun pad, which is great. So now that the fluff's out of the way, how about the actual surface itself? Kurosun describes this as a ultra smooth speed pad with some extra stopping power. So how does that work? Usually if a pad feels super smooth, it means that it's got a very tight weave and it's going to have a lot of contact with your mouse feet, which means it's going to require more friction to move the mouse, and it's going to feel slower, whilst being a lot more comfortable on your skin. Whereas something over here, like Heian, is going to feel a lot rougher, which means it's going to minimize as much contact with your mouse feet, and it's just going to be a lot faster. Yeah, but you might even feel some of that roughness under the mouse feet, whereas something like this, it's going to feel a lot smoother. So what Kurosun have done here is they've replicated the feeling of something like a GSR, whilst increasing the speed. So this is a hybrid surface. It's made of polyester, it's got some plastic in it, but this doesn't really feel like a lot of other hybrid pads I've tried. If you're familiar with the Aqua Control Plus or Aqua Control 2, this does not feel at all similar to those pads in terms of speed or surface. You know, those pads are a lot rougher and a lot faster. And if we compare it to artisan pads, I'll say that it's got the features and properties of an artisan pad like the base, but it doesn't really feel like an artisan pad, and I think that's a good thing. For me, I don't think Artisan really has a control pad. Their slowest pad, the Zero, is slower than their other offerings, but it's still way faster than any control pad you're going to find. Specifically in terms of stopping power, those pads are icy, and they can be pretty difficult to be consistent with in tactical FPS games. Now that's why you see a lot of tactical FPS players gravitate towards control pads, because they're going to feel a lot more confident when they plant their crosshair in the right spot and someone comes into the screen. All they have to do is click. They don't have to worry about moving the mouse just a millimeter and missing by a small margin. And those static flicks are going to feel just so much more confident when the mouse pad is going to kind of help you stop. Whereas on something like a Hien, it'd feel a lot more wild and inconsistent, and it can be hard to maintain that consistency over time while trying to aim in those games. Now for something faster, something like Overwatch with tracking, or playing a target switching game like BattleBit, a really fast pad is going to be suitable for those games, and you're not going to have to worry about stopping power as much. But don't let that scare you away from the kurosun. This thing is still decently fast, and I don't think you're going to have any trouble playing a faster game that isn't just completely static flick. So what is this pad really comparable to? Well, if I have to make a comparison, I pull out this pad. So this is the GameSense Radar 4mm, and although this is thought of to be a control pad, the surface feels remarkably similar. On my hand, pretty smooth. They both kind of feel like an upgraded GSR surface, but also in terms of mouse feeling. They both have decently low dynamic friction. kurosun is going to edge it out in speed in that department, but they also maintain a good amount of stopping power. Just when you're doing these little micro adjustments, you can feel it kind of pull on your mouse feet as you change directions, and that's going to help with confidence in certain scenarios. So for me, this pad isn't a competitor to super fast speed pads. It's not going to compare to a SkyPad or a Hien, or even other hybrid pads, but what it is going to do is target a specific market of people that are used to control pads but want to up the speed a bit without losing that consistency. And I think it does a great job of doing that. I play really well with this pad. I find playing on something like the Hien to be kind of difficult to maintain consistency with. I'll have certain days where I can't miss a shot, and I'll have other days where I can't hit a shot, whereas with control pads, I might have a slightly lower ceiling, but my skill floor is a lot higher, so even on my off days, I'm still going to be able to hit the shots that I should. So if you feel just kind of stuck in the mud of your control pad and you want to up the control a little bit, but you don't want to go completely out of the park, I think this is a really great option to consider. And as well as that, you also get a very premium experience. You get a great base, it comes flat packed, it's got nice stitching and a cool design. This is just overall a really great pad and a really fantastic first offering from kurosun. I'm really excited to see what they do next. So thanks for watching the review, I hope you enjoyed it, and now you can enjoy the gameplay.
Oh, there's four. Oh, it was right.